The morning bell rings. The hallway is a blur of backpacks and chatter. But right here at the classroom door, everything stops. A kindergartner locks her hands onto the wooden doorframe, knuckles turning white, paralyzed by a surge of panic while the rest of the room moves on without her. That intense physical stress response is becoming increasingly common. Public health tracking from the CDC, the government agency that monitors health trends, shows persistent, elevated rates of anxiety symptoms among teens stretching through the 2020s. Researchers point directly to the isolation you see here, students siloed by the glow of a screen, combined with a culture that overprotects them from minor bumps while leaving them underprepared for actual stress. Walk into the staff room at a Christian school, and you will hear two well-meaning but opposing instincts for handling this. The first is to offer a quick scripture verse and suggest the student pray about it. The second is to completely avoid the subject out of fear that talking to an anxious kid means practicing unlicensed therapy. Both reactions come from a place of genuine care, but both leave the teacher empty-handed. Quoting a verse does not stop a meltdown in the coat closet, and avoiding the problem leaves a genuinely scared child alone in the room, lacking the tools to handle those heavy emotions in the moment. The path forward requires a shift in how we view the job. A teacher is not a doctor. You do not need to diagnose an internal condition or cure it. You are a thermostat. Your job is to set the climate of the room. The classroom is never a neutral space. The tone of your voice, the predictability of a transition, and the way you handle a quiz all actively raise or lower a student's baseline stress. We often assume anxious children are afraid of change. They are actually afraid of ambiguity. The panic spikes when they do not know what is coming next. You control the first lever to lower that panic: predictable transitions. By removing the guesswork from the day, you remove the primary fuel source for their anxiety. The application changes depending on who is sitting in front of you. For elementary students, it means posting a highly visible visual schedule on the board and sticking to it. In a high school setting, it means giving an anxious student advance notice that you will call on them in 5 minutes, eliminating the dread of a cold call. Establishing that stable, visible, daily rhythm brings the entire room's temperature down. It achieves a level of calm that a single one-on-one conversation simply cannot match. Watch this animated circle as it models a breathing anchor. When a student feels panic rising, a slow 4-count breath gives their body a physical reset. To make it stick, pair that physical breath with a concrete phrase. This is where Psalm 94:19 naturally fits the physical rhythm. Tying breath to scripture gives theological weight without forcing a high-pressure devotional. These verses work perfectly because they are brutally honest. The Bible does not tell a panicked student to pretend they are not scared. It acknowledges the fear as something very real and gives them a specific action to take while feeling it. Consider the 8th grader who diligently studies all week, clearly understands the material, and then completely blanks the moment the major test hits the desk. This is uncertainty anxiety. The student is not failing the content. They are failing to navigate the ambiguity of the expectations, and their body responds by shutting down the flow of information. You fix this by engineering the uncertainty out of the assignment. Provide explicit rubrics early. Hand out worked examples. Offer a low-stakes first attempt, so the pressure of perfection doesn't freeze them up. By making the criteria for success perfectly visible, you dismantle the ambiguity. The fear drops out of the equation, and the student's actual knowledge safely surfaces. A thermostat can only regulate so much. Following this middle path means knowing precisely when a student's needs exceed classroom management and require professional help. This flowchart outlines specific triggers for the escalation ladder. You loop in outside help when anxiety interferes across multiple settings, when conversations reveal home factors, or you observe a safety concern. If a high schooler spirals over college decisions, classroom tactics aren't enough. You note the pattern, speak kindly, and hand the situation directly to the counselor. Respecting this boundary is an act of care. It prevents you from burning out in a role you are not trained for, and guarantees the student gets the exact level of clinical support they need. Supporting an anxious student comes down to the deliberate choices you make to build predictability and eliminate fear in the space you control. Christian educators hold a distinct advantage here. You can implement the exact same practical routines any excellent teacher would use, while simultaneously giving a child the profound language needed to bring a very real fear to a real God. That kindergartner gripping the doorframe at the start of the day eventually lets go. She recognizes the visual schedule on the board, takes a slow breath, and steps into the light of the classroom. The anxious kid in your third period seat is a chance to build the kind of classroom trust that outlasts this lawyer.